We don't have a quorum, do we?
Call to order the Utility Service Board for the City of Lawrence on this, October 25, 2016. And it appears that we have three members present, so we do have a quorum. And we'll begin by entertaining a motion to... Oh, I'm sorry. Today?
The minutes that you're doing.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Entertain a motion to approve the minutes which were sent out to you for the October 11th meeting.
I move that we approve the minutes.
A second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. The minutes are approved. Next order of business will be the payment of claims. Those were also sent to you electronically. Entertain a motion that the claims be approved for payment.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion or question regarding the claims? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The payment of claims has been approved. Report of Utility Superintendent, Mr. Sullivan.
Hi, don't really have a whole lot on the report tonight. Wanted to save plenty of time for our controller to get up here and present his financial report, which I know you guys are have eagerly anticipated. There's no real update on the Christopher Burke contract either. The engineer is continuing to work on that project. We don't have any updates on that particular project. So just once again, forging ahead on all fronts.
Okay. Any questions for Superintendent? Thank you. Scott?
Thank you.
So that also takes care of the unfinished business portion of the agenda. Anything else under unfinished business anyone has? Seeing none, we'll move to new business, covenant approvals. And we have three, 4934 Chip Shot Lane, which is lot 114 in Winding Ridge, or the Greens at Winding Ridge, 4941 Chip Shot Lane, lot 129 in the Greens at Winding Ridge, and 5004 Chip Shot Lane, lot 110 in the Greens at Winding Ridge. I will entertain a motion that those be approved.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any question or discussion regarding these matters? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The covenants are approved. Next order of business comes from our city controller, the transfer from the water operating fund to the water capital improvement fund. You have a new addition tonight, the monthly utilities financial update, which Jason has prepared. Thank you very much.
And I think on that, I'll briefly walk through what's contained in that, and that'll help explain items 2 and 3 under new business. Given that you've just received those, I think it would be best to wait until the next USB as you've had time to actually review it to see if you have any questions. And we will be presenting these going forward on a monthly basis. You'll get them by email going forward. I just figured for the first one we'd produce these in paper copy. But what you have in the report you have a section for the water utility and a section for the sewer utility. So if I could have you flip to the water summary, which actually is the first page with page 1 at the bottom. So this page shows the net cash position for the water utility. The first column on the page is 2016 year-to-date, which is through September 30th. And then each of the columns to the right of that is the year-ended net cash position as of 12/31/15, all the way back to 2011. So the first fund on this page is the water operating fund, which is the main water fund. You can see that as of September 30th, there is a net cash balance of $743,000. That does include the $1.5 million loan that was made from the sewer utility a few months back. Moving into the middle part of that page on restricted funds, we have the first line item, which is the bond and interest sinking fund. We transfer that and started that this year monthly. It's 1/12 of the debt service that is due on the water bonds outstanding. So that fund will build up a cash position until we pay interest on the bonds in June, and then principal and interest on those in December. The next two funds should remain at zero and have no activity. Those were older funds set up when bonds were issued and the proceeds of those bonds were placed into those funds. So you shouldn't see any activity on those two line items, 605 and 610. And then the last one in that section, 617 Capital Improvement Fund. We should be transferring money on a monthly basis to that fund if we have it to pay for capital improvements. We have not had the funds to transfer into the capital improvement fund, so therefore there should be no expense coming out of that fund. But there was money spent last year, which you can see in that second column, $377,000. That's new business number 2, the transfer request from the operating fund to Fund 617 in the amount of $377,734. So that fund will basically become zero. And then the last two funds on the page of this summary are the debt service reserve funds, and those are for the 2007 and 2009 water bonds that are outstanding. I think the good news on those funds, as you can see, from 2011 to 2016, there's been basically no activity, which is what one would expect. So that's the summary page for the water utility funds. And again, new business item number 2 would be to transfer those funds to zero out the Fund 617. If we don't do that by year end, when we're audited, that will become an audit finding for having an overdrawn account.
Was that a finding at year end last year?
We had that finding, the last audit we did receive, which was for 2014. The only fund at the time at the water utility that was overdrawn was the operating fund, but that was a finding.
Okay. And that 617 overdraw at the end of 15, was that, did we anticipate having the funds when we spent it?
We should have transferred from the operating fund to that capital improvement fund before spending it. I can't answer as to why that wasn't done, but I also would expect that will be a finding in the 2015 audit when they do come in. But at least for the year 2016, by transferring these funds, we can at least clear that up and get water at least slowly starting in the right direction. Behind this section for water, you'll see detailed statements for the operating fund, and I won't go through those now, but perhaps at the next USB. But the first two pages, page 2 and 3 for the water operating fund, is a comparison of receipts and disbursements for the month in a comparison to the month of September for 2015. And then on the right-hand side, a year-to-date comparison, both for this year and last year. And that carries on to page 3. And then of that section, pages 4 and 5 is an historical comparison for just the month of September for the operating fund. And then on pages 6 and 7 of that section is a year-to-date comparison for the water operating fund historically as well, from 2016 back to 2012. And then the rest of the water section is similarly organized for the other funds. And then if I could, should I stop there and entertain number 2 before we hit to number 3 under new business?
Yes. Would you like a motion on this
Yes.
tonight?
Yes.
Well, then let's go ahead and I would request
I
a
would-
motion.
I'd move that we approve the transfer from the water operating fund to the water capital fund, funds, and the amount is the amount of $377,734.
Yep.
To cover the negative in the water capital fund.
Is there a second?
No, I second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Further questions? Not, go ahead and vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That transfer is approved. Now, move on to the
Okay.
sewer.
So if I could have you flip to page 12. So this is a similar summary as to the water. It's the net cash position for the sewer utility. Same thing, first column on this page is as of September 30th of this year. And then there are year-end comparisons going back to 2011. The first fund is 606, the sewer operating fund. As of September 30th, there was 3.4 million in net cash in that fund. Then moving into the restricted funds, similar to water, we have 607, which is the bond and interest fund, where we pay the 2009 and 2015 sewer bond debt service out of that fund. Fund 609, sewer bond proceeds. That fund should have no activity and does not. Fund 611, sewer 2009 bond proceeds, and this begins the part of the discussion on new business item number 2. 611, there was 97,000 spent out of that fund last year. That's a bond proceeds fund, and those bonds were issued in 2009, so unless there was remaining proceeds, there shouldn't have been any activity in that fund. But there was. Then 616 SRF, sewer SRF loan fund, that was related to bonds issued in 2009 as well, which would have been where the proceeds from that SRF bond would have been deposited. You can see there was activity in the years 11 and 12, 13, none in 14, but then we, as a city, spent 95,000 last year out of that fund. And then we did spend some additional money this year when we kind of were peeling the layers behind the books, if you will. We effectively were paying the debt service on that SRF loan out of the loan fund versus the bond and interest fund. So when we saw that, it stopped, and we've been paying it now out of the bond and interest fund, but those first 2 funds should be zero, not negative, again, back to State Board of Accounts. And then the last one there, 618 Sewer Capital Improvement Fund, almost identical to the Water Capital Improvement Fund. There was $343,000 spent last year out of that fund with no transfer or other revenue source to back that up. So collectively, those three overdrawn funds total $600,198, which will come out of that sewer operating fund, which has $3.4 million. So we will need to, make that transfer in order to zero those three funds out. And then the last two on the page are the debt service reserve funds. And again, similar to water, and thankfully there's, those funds are where they need to be with no activity. And then behind these pages, you'll see for the sewer operating fund and the other funds, similar comparisons on a month and year-to-date basis, year over year and over multiple years. And at this point, I think maybe it's best to let this settle for until the next USB, and then I'd be happy to either walk through in more detail or answer any questions.
But you are requesting
Yes.
approval tonight for the transfer.
Yes.
We'll entertain a motion for the transfer.
Could you restate the total number that you're looking for there?
Sure. 600,198.
I would move that we approve the transfer of that number from the operating fund, the sewer operating fund, to the sewer capital improvement fund.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Transfer is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. I would request, Julie, for the members who are not here, that this be mailed to them so that they would have it before the next meeting. And speaking of the next meeting, our next meeting is on the schedule for November 8th, but that is the election day. So, if it is okay, then we will reschedule that meeting to November 9th at 5 o'clock. That's all right with,
You mean 5:30, right?
5 o'clock.
It's for the scheduling of all the rooms.
So, I don't think we need a motion to do that. We can just go ahead.
And we'll publicize that on the website and send it out to.
All right, account adjustments. We have none. Remonstration of ratepayer dispute regarding disconnect notice. See none. Citizens' comments. Do not have any this evening. Anything else from any of the board members? If not, entertain a motion that we adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. We are adjourned. Thank you all for coming.